Welcome to another episode of Adaptation Podcast Vlog. I'm your host, Dorin, and it's Superhero Month. Today, I'm here to talk about the female variety, especially lesser-known ones. Despite what some people think, there are more female superheroes than just Wonder Woman from the DC Universe and X-Men, Storm, and Rogue from Marvel. Not that those don't warrant mentioning, because they're awesome and have not gotten the highlight that they deserve. But there is a whole backlog in the history of comic books. Of course, Hollywood and television have gotten a little better with things like Totally Spies, Powerpuff Girls, and the like, and by including and highlighting female characters like Black Widow in Avengers, and excitingly, Harley Quinn, who gets to play the hero role in Suicide Squad coming up next year. Speaking of which, I do just have to quickly mention Amanda Waller from Suicide Squad as well, who is a ruthlessly cunning, non-powered human who can run a squad of hardened supervillains, and that is just pretty super. And we cannot forget Agent Carter, whose quick wit and resourcefulness should be considered a superpower. The sad truth of it is that I went to check out a list called Women of Marvel from Marvel.com, and they gave me a list of 9. 9. Which I know is untrue because you have to consider the fact that there's a multitude of female mutants alone. They gave me Maria Hill, Storm, Jessica Jones, Invisible Woman, Spider-Woman, Scarlet Witch, Elektra, and Wasp. Come on, Marvel. Rogue didn't even make the list? Really? But let's get started on my list. Let's start with DC, because they've been around longer than Marvel, and started in the golden age of comics. And speaking of golden age, we have to talk about Red Tornado and her legacy. Her real name is Abigail Matilda Ma Hunkel, and she had no specific powers, but she became a pretty good crime fighter and an honorary Justice Society of America member. She was first seen in 1939 and became the Red Tornado in All American Comics, now owned by DC, in 1940. As Red Tornado, she was one of the first superhero parodies, but she was also just one of the first female superheroes, and when occasionally disguised as a man, she was also considered one of the first cross-dressing heroines. It's actually funny because a few people know that Ma Hunkel was the original Red Tornado. The one that's known now is the male version, who's an android. A mandroid. Even during her stint as a crime fighter, they often mistook her for a man. Ma's wind-controlling granddaughter, Maxine Hunkel, continued the legacy by joining the JSA and adopting the alias Cyclone, probably after her mother and father, who were Red Tornado's sidekicks, the Cyclone Kids. Green Fury, also known as Fire, real name Beatrice DaCosta. Her powers are green pyrokinesis and the ability to become a being purely composed of living green fire. She had originally been bequeathed her powers due to Brazilian mysticism, and she was the president of the Brazilian branch of Wayne Enterprise. She possessed an array of abilities, which included the power to exhale vast quantities of mystical green fire. She could also fly, alter her clothing at will, and displayed limited capacity to project hallucinations. Her background changed through the incarnations of her, but she's still pretty awesome. Now one of my favorites, Jade. Her real name is Jennifer Lynn Hayden. As with all Green Lanterns, she can will green energy constructs to life, and can use this energy in almost any way possible, the only limitation being her will, imagination, and endurance. Although most female counterparts to pre-established male superheroes were created to appease female readers, Jade is one of the special ones. Jade has the same Starheart energy manipulation powers as her father, who was Alan Scott, the Golden Age Green Lantern, meaning the first, with the difference that her powers do not come from a ring or lantern, but are channeled through her body. This is due to her father's exposure to magical energies, and she was born with metahuman powers. I love Jade. Bumblebee. Real name Karen Beecher Duncan. She technically does not have any true superpowers, because all of her unique abilities are derived from her scientific superpowered high-tech battlesuit. But she has the power to shrink to insect size. Her solar-powered suit enables her to fly with bee-like wings. She can fire sonic force blasts and unleash electrical stings. She's one of the few African-American superheroes out there. She is a scientist. She created her supersuit, so that's awesome. And she showed up a little bit in the animated series Teen Titans on Cartoon Network, but I'd really like to see more of her. Owl Woman. Real name Winona Littlebird. She has the power of flight, night vision, enhanced senses, and retractable claws. She is a full-blooded Native American from Oklahoma who represents the Kiowa tribe. She was first seen in comics helping Hawkman and his wife Hawkwoman dismantle a bomb in the darkness of an Oklahoma field, and then becomes a member of the Global Guardians. Now we'll move on to the Marvel side of my list. We start with Echo. Real name Maya Lopez. Powers, Olympic-level athlete, strong martial artist, highly skilled acrobat, gifted ballerina, photographic reflexes, as well as a whole bunch of skills that have nothing to do with superhuman abilities. But she's pretty much perfect, I guess. Echo was also known as Ronin when she did a stint in Japan. She is known as a supporting character of Daredevil. She is also Native American and one of the very few deaf comic characters. She had a hard upbringing, but she turned into a very skilled fighter, and when Daredevil refused to join the new Avengers, he recommended her. Circe. No other name, just Circe. She has superhuman strength and durability, molecular and atomic manipulation, psionic powers, immortality, and flight. As a member of the race of superhumans known as the Eternals, Circe has the standard ability of Earth's Eternals, though she has focused the majority of her power into transmutational abilities and has passed it off as illusions or magic over the centuries. Misty Knight. Real name Mercedes Knight. She has superhuman strength, technopathy, if that's how you say that, and weapons in her right bionic arm. She's a highly skilled martial artist, proficient hand-to-hand combatant, near-perfect aim, and a superb detective. She is another of the great African-American heroes. Misty was seriously injured preventing a bomb attack while she was part of the NYPD. Rather than taking a desk job, because she had to have her right arm amputated, she did resign from the NYPD. But Tony Stark made her a bionic arm, and it gave her superhuman strength, to add to her already amazing skills. Valkyrie. Real name Brunhilde. Powers, superhuman strength, stamina, and durability. Slowed aging, centuries of combat experience, ability to convey spirits of the dead. An Asgardian by birth, Brunhilde was selected by Odin to lead the Valkyrier, a group of warrior goddesses who would appear over the battlefields of mortal worshippers of the Asgardian gods and choose which of the fallen were worthy to be taken to Valhalla, the land of the honored dead. She hasn't really been seen in much except for a few animated films, like Hulk vs. Thor, where she tries to fight off the Hulk when he comes to attack. So I'd like to see more. Now this one's hard for me to pronounce. Megan Puceanu, I think it is. P-U-C-E-A-N-U. Just goes by Megan, or Megan. But I don't like calling her Megan because that's DC's Ms. Martian. It also goes by Megan. So Megan. She also goes by Gloriana. She's a powerful superhuman and an empathic metamorph or elemental megamorph, with the apparent ability to assume virtually any superhuman power in existence at will. Born in a blizzard to a British Romanical family, Megan adapted to the cold by growing fur, to the horror of her family. Unfortunately, as an empathic metamorph, the more they saw her as a monster, the more monstrous she became, growing webbing under her hands and feet and on her head, etc., etc. Created for Marvel UK, she goes on to team up with known characters like Nightcrawler and such, but also teams up with Captain Britain. Honestly, I could go on and on forever. The list is pretty much limitless. I mean, I could sit here and talk about how I would love to see a movie about Samus. And yes, I'm talking about Samus from Metroid. Thank you, Nintendo. Please give me a Samus movie. And I'm sure that you're probably saying, why didn't I talk about this or that? Like Sailor Moon. But that's for another episode. If you have anything to add, please feel free to contact us via comments or, any of our social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. We really would. Until next time, this is Dorin saying, be your own superhero.